ACPI informational meeting. Again, that is October 16th, so this Thursday at Gettysburg at High School Auditorium from 6 to 8. Mr. Effenrode and Dr. Perry will be presenting information really just about historical information about ACPI and what people are planning to implement. I would encourage you to attend. It is not a board meeting, it's an informational session only. So it'd be okay if all of you as a full board to attend, and you can sit in this area, that's okay. I really found it public purpose, but it is certainly an informational session. So again, October 16th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Gettysburg High School. It will be live streamed, yes, thank you. I know Dr. Maxwell at Gettysburg has worked to make that live stream available to I believe therefore they'll also be recorded. After that meeting, we'll all post that to our respective websites. My second item is around, again, a partnership that we have with Liberty and it's really to bring back the Veterans Day breakfast. So, this flyer we will be putting up, and I'll be sending it out actually to council tomorrow. But again, we're thankful for the partnership we have with them. It will occur November 11th, so actually on Veterans Day, 7 to 10. We really invite all veterans and the guests. So breakfast will be provided. Some of our students will be providing entertainment, so like sound and music, etc. So again, we really look forward to giving those back to the veterans and those in our community who are somehow connected to their field. So thank you to Liberty for working with us to make this happen. Again, Liberty is donating really space to the food club, which is fantastic. Our job is really to announce and some of those other items. So again, please look forward to this coming tomorrow. This is your time. I know you're ready.
I have a brief presentation. Very quickly, I'll do that. If you want to go from I think it will help clear things out there. In this presentation, probably a little bit of breakdown of that program with the official requirements, the reimbursement needed, how to make that all the necessary, 5 meal components. You got the meat and meat alternative, with the grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. And in order for us to get a reimbursable meal, the children must take at least 3, and one of them has to be fruit or vegetables. And they can take a maximum of 5. I have some examples of a reimbursable meal if you're super curious. At the top we have fruit, milk, vegetables, whole grains, cereal, and the non-current, which are the that is reimbursable. It has the fruit, one vegetable, and the slide Our second meal is milk with fruit and a vegetable option. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it does have fruit and vegetable, and it has fruit and vegetable. And our last option, only 2 things, but it's a burger and a whole grain roll. So there you have your meat option, you also have a whole grain roll and fruit. So it meets that minimum 3 required to run. On the other hand, you have a non-reimbursable item. The top one has a fruit, but it doesn't have fruit, but it only has the option on the fruit. And then on the second option, you have the whole grain roll with that, which is great. It has fruit in it, it has little fruit, and no vegetable option. So that wouldn't count as reimbursable. And your children would be served at the public art for an extra item instead of possibly considering the chicken side for breakfast. Last, again, like that, burger and then they have another entree and milk. So it counts as reimbursable. For this part, I would like to ask if anything to do with me or any manager who's reimbursable or non-reimbursable only.
Let's say the second one is the-
I have one question.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that one will not be reimbursed. It's fruits and meat.
Okay. You are correct. And you do have your fruit option, but you only have only 3 components. Want to do the second one?
I already did, but, yeah, I'd say I don't think we
You're correct. All 5 components are there. You have no volunteers for the third one.
I'm gonna say it is, but I hope it's not. Like it's bread, milk, and fruit. Is that what I'm looking at? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna vote no.
It is reimbursable. Again, I just want to let you know, this isn't something that the cafeteria is able to do. This is something that we have to manage. They chose the minimum 3 requirements that are decided to do. And it's just a 3 requirement to qualify for reimbursement.
No, it's only 2. I'm going to say no, unless you call it something.
Over the bed, it is reimbursed.
Yeah, I'm going to say that.
In our case at the school, we serve pizza that is on a whole grain pizza crust. Cheese is qualified as a meat protein, which is a meat or meat wholesale option. And we have the vegetables that are required. After fruit or vegetables. Yes, and they can go minimum 3, but you have to have fruit or vegetables for it to be reimbursed.
But if I were to, if I were to kid them, if you want to, then have a, right, as long as one of the 3 components is a vegetable or fruit, it's considered. You have 3 items, it's reimbursable. And I think for this particular point, the other option is you can get all 5, you can get up to 5. Yeah, still be free. And it's still reimbursable.
And some children might not want to
Alex had one piece, that last one too. But I think a really important takeaway here though too is that again, in the cafeteria, every day, all 5 options are there. So even though kids may not want all 5 of those components, all 5 components, are available.
Oh, they just put all 5 on there.
Yeah, they have the option of doing everything else, but for the, it might not be dependent on the word food, or what we do know how to do it, which is fine. The staff will try to get it as much as possible, but it doesn't have to. It's also a good way to, there are children that will. We put out a survey last week for our middle school, high school, and elementary students. We asked our high school and middle school students how they would rate the piece of the lunches that they're being served. We received 317 responses. 80% of those said that their lunches were either excellent, good, or okay. We will also then offer the items that in the menu that students provide about. I also asked them what their reasons were. Elementary school kids. We asked them what their favorite meals were. We received 207 responses. Some of them, and that's it. I thought it was funny. But the most consistent answer we received was pizza. 26% of the survey results was pizza. Expected. It was followed by almost 19% that liked breakfast for lunch, and 13% who loved anything chicken related. Moving forward, we would like to administer more of these options that our children have while remaining in the guidelines. So we don't want to break any of the rules that the USDA has put out before us. And again, we want to remove the items that we do not like. That's really the goal. We want them to take more options. We don't want them to go hungry. That's not what we do. And we began serving our students quarterly now because I feel like for the whole class is great. I like to help. I believe so. Some things I feel like aren't completely for the staff. That means yeah, so it's still a mixture. We have spots that are open and it's helpful we had with the little position. So I understand that it's not for everybody. Not for everybody. So I try to shrink it down to $10, but I can go into a million. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Just trying to give them a little bit more information. You know what I mean? People that, we don't want to try to take away anything. Yeah, particular. I know, some I want to do, you know, put on. And it is.
It's just not very clean.
A couple examples of a la carte things that the kids in high school can get that don't fall into this.
These are all of our items, but hot items, we don't have to provide the USDA bylaws, so. Cheeseburgers are there, yes, we sell out everything, all pretzel. And those are like the two consistent things. Outside of that, it's really big, like, anything that really like that you offer, because then that's not where analysis that has to happen.
So, I don't need an exact number, but your best guess, like, what percentage of the kids eat a la carte versus the stuff that we're in compliance with?
So in our point of sale system through Skyward, it ranges up a little high, so that's really up to what we're doing to. So if a student were to come through and you didn't have a reimbursement meal, it would be charged for a la carte because it's not a la carte is one of So there's a lot of a la carte purchases, but a lot of those are really served. They just have multiple requirements. But we do get a lot. We can bring in those back.
I think that's the important part, like I think a lot of our kids, get two items, like they want a burger, that's all they want.
Right.
If they were to get, after a piece of pizza go along with that food cost, that's it, and they get that too. So it's also, again, we talked about in the past, kind of what makes, kind of like here, what makes a good burger.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I are aware of this, but when I first started here earlier in February or March, I worked with the middle school art teachers that appreciate program the plan criteria and explain what the are after that criteria. So that was my way of kind of getting students involved with and learning something other than me just telling them.
Looking at it, and I've always said this because I'm the one whose kid has a $5,000 lunch balance every week. But I wish there was a way, because you should probably bring up a perfect point. Parents are sitting at home, don't know what their kids get for lunch because we can't tell them what to eat. So you have a kid that's going in there and getting a cheeseburger and a milk and getting charged for it. When if they would take an apple, they wouldn't get charged for it. So you see where I'm getting with this. Like parents have no say in the fact that their child's lunch balance keeps going up and up and up. When if they would just take an apple, they wouldn't know anything. So how do we do that?
So that, the hard part is, again, as Mr. Finkel pointed out, the offer versus everybody, you can guide them for that, and your cost of that meal comes down significantly. If you take the two six meal at home, even though the cafeteria is not a really good job of talking to the kids, there are kids who still like, I don't want that, I just want my burger and my milk, and items, they can see what's purchased. And they can educate you, like take an apple or a piece of.
Right,
Perfect.
right. And we have that somewhere on that, parents understand that when they look at it.
That's what I was gonna ask.
What's that?
It just says all the cards.
I looked at mine, so this is à la carte, it doesn't say that there's all the cheeseburger, no, it
Yeah.
says à la carte, that's all that is. But if the cheeseburger on the à la carte, are you saying that they get a cheeseburger that's 10% margin, but then also a vegetable or a meal, then it would be considered a minimum margin, 3%?
So in that scenario, if the student came to the fruit festival, that would be considered one. If it's hard to get extra all the time, it's perfect. But if the student came to the they could meet those requirements if they're at that side. They're not
So there are 3 to 5, yeah, there are 3 to 5 requirements to make the meal, but if they pick 3 requirements, like 3 items, they don't make that requirement. And that's what you're gonna do, is this all part.
So if I come in and I'm done eating this stick here in a minute. If I come in and I order a cheeseburger and a milk, that's all I want. How much, roughly how much money do you charge? Okay. If you put an apple on my tray, how much money do you charge?
So, the burger is all of our items regardless, so it doesn't really, if they were to get the entree that was known, then the burger is all of our items. Unless you would have a burger menu.
So if it's a main menu item and you get a milk and a fruit,
Yeah,
I think that's what's the cost of that? I think is Mr. Little.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
I think the meal prices for middle and high school.
So more food, less cost.
Right. Yeah, and I understand that, I mean, the math's there, I just don't know that the parents understand that
Right.
it's doing.
I did definitely do it, but not everybody's just gonna go work with.
Right.
I don't expect that. But I think that tomorrow, once we come get us a website, we can tell the parents, that you always come in here, the parents are there.
I appreciate your presentation, thank you.
Whatever you want.
Are you ready? Okay. I was thinking it.
All right, you can help me out. All right, well, good evening. For those of you that, I guess are online, probably don't know who I am. I'm Aaron Kelly, the Assistant to the Superintendent. And I'm going to talk tonight about our beginning of the year data within the District 812. If you remember last year, we actually did this presentation in January, so we're a lot earlier this year. And we're going to take a little bit of a different approach. Last year, I gave you a lot of information. We were here for a while last year, and you got a lot of questions from that also. So learning from that, we're going to give you some bite-sized pieces of information as we go. So that's one of the reasons why we're starting a little earlier. Hopefully, we'll help you sort of along the way understand what we're doing. The time's going to be just focused on that data piece. So really what we're using to do it, inform some of the decisions as we go. And I'm going to focus really just on this year so far. I am going to talk a little bit about last year's PSSA scores, but we want to know where we came from from each grade standpoint. So we have everything else. So actually, that's a little go back. So first I'm going to talk talk about our elementary reading performance, and we'll talk about our cadence. So this is a reminder from last year. I we use a universal screener, K-4. Actually, we're using it the whole way up to 8th grade now, but this is just the elementary. So all our K-4 students actually are using the cadence. As a reminder too, our cadence is just looking at the reading skills that basically research suggests that if our students understand this, they're going to be able to read down the road. So it's not measuring their ability to be able to, for example, make an inference or select an idea. That's important because as I get later in the presentation, we'll see why that stands out. So overall, in our elementary scores so far in kindergarten, we are at 54% beginning of the year. Once again, just the beginning of the year of the kids. In first grade, 53%. Second grade, 67% of our students are making that benchmark at the beginning of the year. 63% in third grade, and then 56% in fourth grade. So overall, our highest grade was in second grade, and overall, 57% of our students had that benchmark. As a reminder to you, we're always shooting for that 80%. We want that to be there because that suggests that our core curriculum is working. Now, I'll remind you also, we are now just starting to write our K-12 English curriculum. So this is something we're still working on from an instructional or curriculum standpoint. We're going to select and move forward with the one thing I'll point out to you in this kindergarten, so looking at the trend. So once we get this data, we start to look at what is the data telling us? Where's the trend? Not even just this year, but since 5 years now, it's a little bit before Ms. Robert actually arrived at the retail industry, we start to track getting this data to be able to decide access to it. And what you'll see is you start to see but anyhow, you sort of see a stair approach. Now, we drop off a little bit this year in third and fourth grade, but almost every year on the year data shows our kindergartners are our lowest grade level in the year. Why is that? Well, it's always a question you have to ask me to dive into it. So I'm not just saying this is for sure, but one of the suggestions that I have based on that is our kindergartners are coming not ready necessarily for kindergarten from an early reading standpoint. So something as we take this data and we start to move towards throughout the year, we're looking at the data tonight, and we're going to start looking into what our plan is based on that data the next time we present. Ultimately, what is that comprehensive approach as a district are we going to put in place to be able to improve these scores as much as we can? One of the reasons that I'll talk to you eventually about is what are we going to do over here before we come to kindergarten? So there are some options for us down the road. I'm not doing that tonight because I'm not rounding all and we'll be here for an hour. So tonight I'm just trying to give you 15 minutes of beginning of the year data. So that is our K-4 reading data. As we move into math, overall from a math standpoint, this is still our cadence data. In kindergarten, we were 55%, first grade 70%, second grade 58%, third grade 75%, fourth grade 44%. Not quite sure what happened in this fourth grade. I don't necessarily have an answer of why we get here, but overall our math scores actually were a lot higher, which I like to say that we did our math curriculum last year, so I hope that some of that sort of correlates to that. Once again, that outlier of that fourth grade, not really sure why that happened. Sort of tracked the whole overall group and all of it. I'll make it down a little bit from a collective group. But I do appreciate that we're getting to those 70 to 75% numbers. Just remember, the goal is to get that to 80%. So moving on, some areas of weakness for us. This is where I brought up that cadence. So as a reminder, cadence is looking at some of those structured literacy types of skills that are going to help us become a good oral reader. So we're going to look at things like awareness and phonics. We're going to look at fluency, but what we're not looking at is the vocabulary or comprehension skills, even more in-depth skills that we're going to see on the PSSA. So sometimes my concern about that really is, let's use an example of third grade. So we took the Newton Mifflin group measure. So Newton Mifflin is a core reading resource. So, sorry, I don't know if you can see that. So overall, the Newton Mifflin is a better correlation to the PSSA test. The because it's going to ask students to go into more in-depth questions. So they might ask them to make an inference. So what I mean by making an inference, they go read the passage, they're going to understand, first of all, they're going to read it correctly, then they need to understand what they read, and then they have to take in information and use those higher thinking skills to be able to do that. So what you can see, so we didn't give it to kindergarten. Last year we found out it was not reliable. I can actually tell you I don't think it's still reliable in the first of the year, because our students are doing it independently with a ton of reading and directions. It's done all online. So I would sort of somewhat go for it straight out. But if you see the other numbers on here, we're still not doing as well on those assessments. So what we're hoping is we continue to track our instruction during the year, and we use those higher depth of knowledge types of questions and activities, we should see the score significantly increase. And usually that from an instructional standpoint, some of the things that we're working on in district, that's what we will do. The other piece to this that we have not done in the district yet, that will help us significantly, not just on reading, but also in math, is we've not touched writing yet. And I would say it's an area of weakness from a district standpoint, but once we put that remedial resource in place next year, we're piloting that. We've been trained the last 2 days, not even today, we're going to training service. Roll those out, select which one we want to roll out, moving forward next year, the election to purchase, and then tackle that issue of writing. Okay? So moving forward, overall, historically, so last year, just to give you an idea, okay, now you know where we started the year, where did we start last year, and where did we end up? So last year overall, 64% of our students were proficient, and we ended the year at 75%. So we were about 5% lower than we really wanted to be at the end. In math, we were at 61%, and then end of the year, we were at 80% overall of our students. So we actually made 11% growth and 19%. Typically what you'll see is reading will start a little higher, but not grow as much. Math will start a little lower, and it'll grow more, and I believe that's more from the conceptual knowledge of math. Some students simply have never been exposed, especially at the elementary. If you've done long division, you never learned long division. So typically they grow a little bit more. Moving into the middle school. Now the middle school we started using a cadence this year, and the reason for that was we wanted to see when the students went from 4th to 5th grade, were they dropping off, so we could figure out why that would be the case. Before this year, we were not giving them a cadence in middle school, and it's a little less reliable with the middle school. The research suggests that, but we want to just see, does it correlate, why are they dropping off? So overall, at the middle school, we were on benchmark, we were at 42% at overall 5th to 8th grade on the cadence data. We were 10% on benchmark, 32% of our students actually were above the benchmark, so total 42% in reading. And then IXL, which is the other, it's sort of like the growth measure at the middle school. Overall, we actually had 17% of our students were on benchmark, and 20%, so total 37% of our students were on grade level, were on benchmark at the middle school. Once again, same thing is happening. We're lower on the IXL because there's more in-depth skills that our students just need more exposure, more opportunity to be able to be exposed to.
Mr. Taylor, did you say our goal there is 80?
So 80% is our goal for our students to do. Yes.
Okay, so
So keep in mind, when I go back, our goal is going to be more from an 80% standpoint here, because it's more of a universal student standpoint in here. Because if we get 80% here, that means 80% of our students are most likely to be proficient on the PSSA, which I never want to quote myself being negative, but a piece cause our country. If we get 80% of our 8th graders taking the math PSSA, I'll be going somewhere else because we're one all over this thing. And no one's getting those scores. So, because state average is like around 30% on the 8th grade PSSA. So I don't think we're ever going to be 80% here, but if the goal is to get that the highest we can get it, and give them the skills that you're ready to tackle. One of the other things I would tell you that's important about the growth measure and the IXL is they're actually given online, and when we talk about our PSSA scores, I do believe it was a little bit of a dip, because if you remember, last year was our first year we put those online, which I believe is a big deal. If you ask probably 90% of our students, they would rather take the paper test than the SSA. So the scores did get a little bit similar, but also rose in some areas. Middle school math, just to highlight this really quick. Actually, cadence-wise, once again, to my point, 65% of our students were at or above the benchmark on a cadence math. Then on IXL, we actually only had 1% of our students were well above, meaning they're above that their corresponding grade level, and they were only 25%. So that 8th grade exemplary test, the PSSA, one of the things I want to do with you is give you a couple of those questions. I think you'll be amazed how difficult, as I always tell people, 8th grade PSSA is way harder than high school. It's much harder because you're being assessed with all these things, not just the algebra.
This is the one thing that bothers me is we got the scores and then we sat around and we really looked at the scores and came up with the same results that the administrators were talking about. But we were never given time then to actually do the remediation. Is that now happening? I mean, through workshops or?
That's a really good question. I think it is the biggest difference that we've made last 2 years. So, because I do feel like we've made a lot of headway, and I sort of got onto this when I came up. Hey, we need better written curriculum, we don't have interventions, we don't have schedules not set up for our students. I believe we've checked almost everything, put all these things on. In fact, Mr. Al and I have a question for ourselves, but we're going too fast. So we have to pull back a little bit this year and say, hey, we made a lot of progress, but we're probably going a little too fast for some people to back up. To answer the question, the first thing we did is, if you remember, we added a regular service days into the schedule. So now what we've done is we've given the teachers specific days one year to do exactly what Mrs. Ferguson just said, was take that data beyond what we've done, to dig into their class, see where they're at individually and as a group, so that we can sort of look at the curriculum, look at our instruction, what we can do, and we added those periods today, both for reading and math, which we went back, some collections we had from last year, we trained the team on what it look like, continue to add support for them to use like IXL. One of the reasons why we love that program is it designs a personalized plan for every individual student. So if I'm a 5th grader and I take the IXL benchmark, then what it does is says, okay, Aaron Taylor has all these things to work on. Here's what those things are. They can do that at home. They can do that in. They can work on that computer. So yes, we've done those. And we've added interventions for those students who are at that well below, whether we're special ed or not, that have been identified with an IEP. We're still addressing those, hoping that they never need an IEP. We're going to get them those.
I think so. I was more interested in seeing tools and I learned a lot from my other fellow teachers. So when we were looking at our scores, say as different time, I would learn to take the next step because somebody there was maybe smarter than I was, and we could really feed off of that.
And that's what you set up. Remember talked a little bit about this last year. We're running those on those days, so we have them set up now in those because I do like, and not to mention making the changes in the curriculum. Because if everybody in that curriculum can sit around and getting the same results, we're all teaching the curriculum the same way. What do we need to do to make it change? It's something we can do to get around. So getting into Future Ready. So if you remember, Future Ready is based on a report card for each of our schools. So basically, what is our academic performance from a proficiency standpoint? Are we growing students at the high school? So things like our graduation rate coming to it, for all 3 schools. Also our attendance, which is one of these guys, Mr. Cole, because this should be somewhat easy to us. So at the elementary school, we're at 67.2. At the middle school, we're at 59.6. And at the high school, we're 66.2. The next question is going to be, how does that relate to last year, at the elementary, we dipped a little bit, I'm showing that slide, so we went from last year's 73.6 to 67.2, which I believe is partially because of that online assessment. We believe we took a dip there. Same thing in middle school, we took a dip by about 0.4 of a point. And then at the high school, we actually grew 2 So, a little bit of a dip as the elementary there is really the high school. And interesting enough, sort of proves my point a little bit, the high school took a data piece of that. They still have the choice to be able to do content. So I do believe that digital piece is something that we need to look at. And once again, when I look at everyone else's scores, they also do. If you're interested in seeing the county scores, I can share that with you in board games or something like that. I think we have to be careful sometimes comparing ourselves. I think it's also a good opportunity just to measure where we're at. I would tell you that we've done better in some districts in some areas, and other areas we'll do better. So, just like Mrs. Sturgis was pointing out, I like to have conversations with different districts and ask them, what are you doing in that area? And they continue every year to inform on this. One, for example, a neighboring district to us uses one of the field resource programs we're looking at. And I've already asked that you do that for this one of the schools. So, we go over the So I always believe you need to look for strengths. You also need to obviously look for areas of weakness. I do believe that the great thing is if I, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, our elementary continues to show growth in their end of the year potential, and also that our high school did grow last year 2.2, because I think last year it's a little doom and gloom a little bit for them to look at the data. So I do have to give them credit that they did some progress from the year before. Where we're looking at some target interventions. The middle school overalls grades, we're actually sort of focused on those to make sure that we're growing. Once again, that 4th grade proficiency, I think it's a little bit of an anomaly there, but I will retract that to make sure that is more realistic where we're at. We're also, once again, I talked a lot about cadence and behavior in IXL. Why is that difference exist? I once again believe it's because there's higher level of skills that we need to practice. Obviously, as we already talked about, we have a monitoring our MTSS framework in place to monitor our progress and have those new services set up to track that improvement and really get into the weeds of what that instruction looks like. Questions?
Are you saying we have a choice between electronic versus paper test?
We did last year.
Only the high school.
But overall last year, we could have taken the PSSA last year on paper when we chose to go ahead and start to expose the students to the PSSA. This is it.
We were given a choice, like, and we're not giving a choice, giving a choice anymore.
That's right. There's no longer a choice. That's why we just keep it the board last year.
So now it's permanently only offering electronic tools for all students regardless of their skill set or their comfort.
Yes and no. So there are some special ed students who have certain disabilities in certain areas of the skills. Now keep in mind, some of our students that are in more of our arcade support lab teams or even for the apparatus or other skills, those students get the pass.
And when you're saying you think that there's an anomaly created because of that, what do you think that is? I mean, if we've been using Chromebooks and all sorts of technology in the classroom, why do you think that could cause test scores to drop?
I think the students don't take it as disabilities to how get it for them. But when we really realize that is something that's practice difference we have to do. Not the students to do and work and work on this there's great tools on there, and we tried to highlight those tools and teach them how to use those. Do some of the tools, but I don't think we're very using them. So how to highlight all those things that are easier to teach you how they get important information. Go back and read it. They don't scroll back up, they don't go back into the text. You know, I use myself as an example all the time when I'm answering those questions. I'm going back and going over that passage. I'm even trying to find what I read, which is important too. If you go to write sometime and you write the TPAs, there's cited evidence. You're not going back into that. The evidence you read and you
tool that we're using is causing problems not necessarily that we actually know, so, or don't know, so,
Which leads actually a little bit into something that I want to talk about in the future, today's job, and I've talked about this. I do believe from a comprehensive, so a couple steps down the road when I come back, because I'm hoping to talk a little bit more about some of the things we've already done, some of that is here. Give some examples of things that we've done. Actually, I had sent a picture out one day of a library where one of the things was their teachers were doing exactly what we were talking about. From a comprehensive standpoint, I believe we need to ask ourselves the question of variability. How much emphasis do we want to put on the business? Do I believe it's a good measure, or do I believe it's part of our future ready score and we have to try to do better on it? Yes. I'm not saying we don't care about it. But I believe from sort of our own report card is we need to start thinking about where we want to put our emphasis and how we want to grade ourselves. Because I do think we can't control some of those things. And I'm not sure it's the greatest measure of our students' performance. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. There are other districts too. I think my specific thing that you said, that we want to focus more on those career pathways. It's more important to our students that are leaving high school, with knowing who they are, where they're going, and having the skills they want, than it is necessarily to get advanced.
yeah,
Now,
internally.
some is a graduation requirement, too, so every different is that.
I can appreciate that mindset, because they try to control that, and say that it's just not an all be all. Are they not what, folks coming into this community see when we're rated as a school district in
Yeah.
public formats, saying whether or not they wanna live here because of the school's, quality, and that's the gotcha, unfortunately, we may know internally, again, what our students are capable of.
I still believe, and once again, PSSA is a snapshot, one time. I still believe some of those other things you need to do a couple times a year are better than the other thing. So I think and they should really be doing better off of PSSA. I worry that we're going to ask ourselves to do something what we're doing. Once again, we're right where the rest of the state is and averages. So when you talk about, the people that make decisions a little bit there, other people aren't blowing us out of the water.
Yeah, I'm not implying it on, it's just why it matters.
Yeah. Or school digger, things like that, that's what people are, that are able to see these systems. I would also say that if we could do better in some other areas, we'll be able to make this. Graduation rate, attendance, things like that. We're still struggling with attendance wise. We're getting better, but it's still heavy.
And I don't
That's
want,
why it's still a district vote.
Yep.
I don't wanna give up the pass. I don't wanna give up the pass. I know that the middle school has never been amazing when it comes to these scores. However, those kids that are in the middle school now are really kindergartners and first graders, so.
And everybody intervention.
Right, and so that may never get better until they're gone, right? And I just wanna ask the question again out loud, what is being done to these kids at the middle school level to help them get what they missed fundamentally in those early years, so that they really do start to.
I have better news. Mr. Miller's question last year was really more about Kaizen. That's the more difficult thing. The good news is for the middle school is, just like we were talking about the WIN, we have 2 WIN periods now at the middle school, one for reading and one for math. So we're running reading 180, math 180, the IXL, there's WIN instructional periods during the time. We added Wilson reading for those kids. So those students who are showing up in that low below area, we're putting into those. So the problem is right now is we're maxing out those because once again they're not getting revenue set. So that is part of the concern is when we don't get there, we have more kids in their mentions than we should. So it's actually costing us. So in a way, COVID still costs us money because we're making up for these kids. And we didn't have those elementary frameworks in place that could help us. Are we ever going to not need interventions? That's quite not good. It's the same thing with mental health. We're never going to get to the point where we don't need to speak out.
This is all honestly, those questions are things that we talked about, and thankful that the board is supportive. So the intervention specialists who are really critical. And yes, we have those in elementary, but we also have we're not gonna see that immediate result, but again, longitudinally over time. We can't go back and make up the time that we lost in COVID. These interventions are certainly extended. And again, that's credit to you, allowing us to bring those things through the district to support the implementation.
We've come a long way in 2 years now.
Yes.
I agree. It was one of the reasons why I asked the question, because I wanted other people.
That's why I stress the project group, sort of project group wording, is because I think when we're looking at project-based learning, you're doing math, you're doing language arts, you're doing reading. I know there's still a need to pull out some intervention, but I like the idea of holistic intervention because we can come and hit some of the areas that are full of myths falling around.
And I was already talking about this today, the highlight the library, and I was we were talking about some of the projects, I was just most of the science part, the STEM part, that we do not have the input of the students to be able to actually really design something that's still good for social studies, and how to science skill, and the practice of the math and reading. So, that is, I'll bet you out loud, the library is pretty exciting. It really is, the students are excited, and the staff is supposed to do it, the space has been beautiful to go through, so thank you.
I just did one eye, could you explain that? I don't much, but.
Yep, so again, this student, again, is a swimmer, similar identifies last year. So now we see not swim to participant. He was achieved the go-to needs and skills participant. And if she earns time, then she can actually qualify for the district's we have to have this information for her to be able to have.
Okay, so the swim is through there, like you cover her uniform, stuff like that?
I want to say she's almost an independent, but in order for her to swim in the because we don't have the kids, we have to have this for.
Oh, okay. I mean, I wasn't,
Yeah, I understand.
well, yes, so I just didn't.
No, she's really.
They're like our colors.
I don't know if she's.
Yes, it was,
I think it's re-
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
put the checklist on the agendas so that we don't have to spend a ton of time on it, just this is still being worked on. This one checked, we're done, it's completed. Like, something like that, that we don't need to spend 20 minutes on. It's just there, and we can reference it, and the community can reference it to see if the projects are complete. So something. Right.
Fair point. Mr. Donovan has so we have a couple of quotes. Turned out to be way more expensive. You know, the quotes made like 2 years ago. So that's no, not. What we budgeted for our, Mr. Herman has quotes when the budget is due. So, but just with all the activity and projects that need to be done, the plan is still to get it done in this year, but it'll be like June. Which is taking the yeah, it'll be a curtain is on. So we get 3 months. Is the idea true? In the parking lot, the library. But it's, yeah, the checklist is, I would call it